And now we've got the chilling new video of the moment that the crash happened. It actually shows the Air Canada passenger jet slamming into the fire truck on the runway while trying to land. 2 pilots killed, dozens of people hurt, and a flight attendant strapped into the jump seat ejected onto the runway. Also, we can tell you the plane was going up to 105 miles per hour at the time, and audio from the tower suggesting that the air traffic controller was desperately trying to stop that fire truck seconds before impact. He can later be heard telling another pilot, quote, "I messed up." Let's get straight to our ABC News transportation correspondent, Gio Benitez. Gio, your thoughts on the presser we just heard?
Well, first of all, Kira, it's just absolutely heartbreaking when we see that video. Absolutely heartbreaking. That air traffic controller, you can just imagine what was going on in his mind at that moment. And as you said, there is a moment on that recording when you hear, "I messed up." But we don't know exactly what he meant by that. And we know that he told, apparently, the fire truck to go ahead and proceed to that United airplane to go ahead and help with their emergency when all of this happened, and clearly cleared this plane for landing at some point. We also at this point, and you just heard the secretary there not confirming how many people were inside air traffic control. That is certainly going to be part of the investigation, and that's going to be central to the NTSB, of course. We heard about the weather at the time of the crash, 11:45 p.m., moderate winds, visibility roughly 4 miles, mist and fog at LaGuardia. So obviously, that's going to be something that they're going to be looking at as well.
Gio, thank you. Let's bring in our aviation analyst, John Nance. So, John, where does the investigation go from here? And how should passengers feel right now about flying in and out of LaGuardia?
Well, I don't think LaGuardia is the problem in this particular instance. There were crashes a number of years back that LaGuardia very definitely figured into in terms of its location and the shortness of runways. I don't think that has anything to do with it here. We had a fire truck en route, and they were cleared on the runway, and then the clearance was terminated by the controller trying to say stop, stop, stop. So a lot of the questions here in regard to that sequence will be: what were the crew of the fire truck? Did they had their headsets on? I'm sure they did. Why didn't they hear that in time? And from the point of view of the controller, how was it that you cleared this airplane across that runway to begin with? These are just the beginning questions, because everything is going to be looked at.
John, Gio, thank you both. And now we've got the chilling new video.
My heart really goes out to the people on that Air Canada flight, the pilots that didn't make it, everybody that's hurt, the firemen that were in the truck. It's a really bad situation all the way around. And a few things come to my mind. So initially, the first thing that comes to my mind is, man, imagine you touched down successfully, like you landed successfully, and that situation happened. So what I mean by that is, you know, usually when you're landing and when you're not supposed to do this, but when you get a signal and you're close to the ground, a lot of people usually text their people that are waiting for them, "Hey, I'm about to land," you know, to kind of get things going, to kind of make them get into place or whatever. You know, people going to rush to get their bags, etc. So imagine your people know that you touched down, but then now they're waiting and they're not knowing what's going on. And then they finally hear the news that your plane was the one that collided with a fire truck. Terrible, terrible news. And then the people got to go to the hospital, some people, whatever. So terrible news. So that's one thing that comes to my head. Another thing that comes to my head is that I believe this plane was coming from Montreal to land in LaGuardia. Now, that hits home because my sister-in-law lives in Montreal. And throughout the years, at least 3 to 4 times, she would take Air Canada to LaGuardia. So it's like a 40-minute flight or less. And we would go pick her up. But she usually comes like the first flight, not the last flight. You know, she comes first thing in the morning, we pick her up, and also we drop her off. And this happens before it's dark. It's always like that. So it hits home because, you know, she's been on that route. And I know she probably feels like, you know, a little shaken about, you know, you putting yourself in that situation. And the last thing I think about is in 2008, I used to work for Delta. And there was a LaGuardia flight, and I think they still have it. It originates in Albany, and then it goes to LaGuardia. So short. If you think Montreal flight is short, from Albany to LaGuardia is even shorter. Literally, they don't even serve you drinks because by the time you go up, you're coming back down. One time we were landing, and it's LaGuardia back then. Well, their runway, where the plane lands, you'll see the water, and then it looks crazy when you're a passenger. Anyway, I'll get to the point. We were landing, and then all of a sudden, the plane shot right back up, which means that something was about to obstruct or getting our way from landing. Because you got to remember, that plane already landed, and the plane was doing 105 miles an hour, I heard. So we were going much faster. So since we didn't touch down, the pilot was able to just take right back off. Very dangerous because, you know, you got other planes taking off and landing, and whatever the case may be, and we circled and circled. But my point is, prayers out to everybody. You know, you feel empathy. You put yourself in people's position, especially if it was that close, like you've been on that route or you know somebody that usually takes that route, and it just hits a little closer. So prayers up for all the family, and that's a big one. And in the airline industry, when something this big happens, everybody's gonna get a training video or whatnot on, you know, how to try to avoid this. What I understand, it wasn't the aircraft. Nothing was wrong with it. Nothing was wrong with the pilots. It is not the fact that it's LaGuardia. It's the fact that there was a loss in somehow of dialogue between the tower and the fire truck. And the fire truck, people might say, what were they doing out there? They were responding to a call with United Airlines. They were going over there to help passengers, and they had initially the right of way to do so. And somehow there was a break in communication, and I guess they couldn't hear when they were being told to stop. Who knows what was the situation, but I guess that's what they're gonna investigate. Prayers goes out to them. Crazy.